Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some very interesting news coming out over here where it kind of leads into the potential PlayStation 5 price increase when it comes to us in America. Now, as we do know as of right this second, there is no official notice as of now, but a lot of analysts now are kind of coming out stating that this is actually not going to be 100% the full-on case. And what I mean by that is a lot of places are kind of looking into these numbers, the inflations and everything else, and chiming on and stating that this PlayStation 5 actually probably will and or could be potentially raising up their prices. Now, there's always a lot of like those potentials and maybes and all that, but it does kind of seem like it starts to push a little bit more on the more likely than not for the price increase. But as well, there's a few reasons why it might not. Obviously, I know there's a lot of might nots, maybe nots, or whatever, and not that we're usually the biggest fan of these types of videos, but whenever you have these people that their entire jobs are to analyze the market and look at the video game industry and look at the consoles and all of that, it does add at least a little bit more merit to what they're actually going and saying. So, once again, we're going to talk about this price increase because I still, my own self, think that it might be kind of bumping up in the near future. So, give me your thoughts and comments throughout this video as well. And as well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. We have the Twitter links down below, and definitely go hang out on the Twitch. We'll probably be doing some drinking for some birthday celebrations down below. We have the Target links too as well, and the Amazon links, and let's dive into the video. So this will be a little bit of a coverage of both. Will it be increasing in the future? Will the price actually go and be a big blah for all of us? Or as well, why is it also not increasing at this current moment, which we've kind of touched on in separate videos too as well. But that kind of gives you the introduction on it, and then it kind of dives into part two. So why the PS5 didn't get a price hike in the United States? Now we have a lot of analysts now finally stating it's a bad idea, what analyst says, but although that hasn't also really stopped Sony from before. A bad idea, bad business practices and all that. We actually even made a video on this like maybe 1 or 2 days ago, talking about how a lot of folks are getting more upset on the fact that Sony has been pushing these price increases and video game increases and everything else, which I still think is kind of a big, also once again, blah. So, 3 years after the PlayStation 3 launched, Sony dropped the price of its most popular model by another $100. And I do usually remember the things back in the day when prices actually went down. We had 2 or 3 years of a product and the price would go down because it's old, it's getting like whatever. They want to go and increase sales or maintain the same amount of sales. And this is why I still think it's such a crazy moment that Sony just says, F that, and we're just going to go and increase the price. So basically, Sony, for at least for the PlayStation 3, dropped their model $100. And this was also the second such price cut to that point, which was all around 2 years into its lifespan. And also the PlayStation 4, at least, went and dropped $50 too as well. So they both had pretty substantial drops, at least in my opinion. These are usually around like, the 2-3 year mark point, or as well, whenever so they have like a PlayStation 4 Pro or Slim and all that came out for these consoles. So barely 2 years into the PlayStation 5's reign, Sony has announced that the price of its hard-to-find console is actually going up, as I'm sure you guys have known from our videos or Twitter or whatever. Like the PlayStation 3 and PS4, there are different circumstances and different powers in charge, leading to this unusual move. But the price hike is hitting every market except the United States. So American buyers probably shouldn't expect a $50, much less $100 discount on the PS5 turns 2, or maybe even 3 years old. Should they also expect to get dragged into a situation involving supply chains, currency values, and investor anxieties? So Daniel Ahmed, a senior analyst based in for the Shanghai-based games research firm Nico Partners, isn't so sure. So a price increase in the United States is thankfully, that we've touched on ourselves, unlikely given the strength of the United States dollar. So we have had a chance to mention this before, but this is more from like people, proper analyst, that, so like I could say it, sure, but I'm just some random guy on the internet. When we have people that are like basically studying this for their entire day-to-day job, that adds a lot more merit to them. At least also adds a little bit more merit to my calls too as well. So basically, once again, as I kind of said, a lot of the United States dollar is basically just been doing very strong. Euro, pound, won, whatever, it's been doing great. And as well, that also drove the initial MSRP increase. So it hit in Europe, where the dollar and euro for 1-to-1, as I kept on mentioning to you guys, for the first time in 20 years, for 50 euros more, which still doesn't really make sense to me, and they have to pay even more than that, but And then also touched the UK, where basically the pound is the lowest against the dollar has been since 1985, so like almost like 40 years, for 30 pounds more, and then also tagged the Japanese yen for 550 yen. So in an email to Polygon, Ahmed noted that the United States is the largest console market, and this is kind of a topic we never really touched on. It's also one of the most competitive, which makes a price increase there riskier. But another industry and analyst very familiar in the gaming public, Michael Pacher of Wedbush Securities, is somewhat more pessimistic though on behalf of the consumers. If they have a chance to raise the prices in the United States, Sony probably will do so. But raising the price is such a dumb idea, which I agree with. I just do think that like Microsoft is like, let's put it at like a 40%. Sony's at like a 60, if we're just not factoring Nintendo. Where Sony has the better games, and it kind of has still that like somewhat flashier quantity. It's selling more, it's out of stock more, and a lot of people on Xbox are also on PC, or just chose PC over Xbox, which is fine. But it is kind of crazy too, because I swear if the PS5 was $550 and the Xbox still stuck at $500, I think that really would go and push a lot more folks being like, well, I can mostly play most of the same games, such as Call of Duty or Overwatch or whatever. Yeah, I'll just go to Xbox. Why not? It's pretty much the same besides maybe some exclusives, but like whatever, whatever. I could roll with that. And I can see a lot of people pushing that same mindset. While in other regions, the PlayStation 5 is still just smashing it. Like we've referenced Japan before, where basically Japan itself is just like, basically not selling any Xboxes, like it's selling like 100 Xboxes. So at that point, the PlayStation 5, they can sell as much as they want. So basically, he also goes on to continue stating, I'm hopeful they learn their lesson and keep it limited to the other markets. But in theory, if they want to learn their lesson, they should just not change the price at all. And so why would Sony go along with something that consumers wouldn't want? To say nothing of the fact he considers it a bad move. Patcher noted that Sony's earlier decision to price games at $70 and bail out of E3 activities are moves to that also alienate consumers, but Sony seems to be make them without taking too much punishment near term. The simple fact is that the demand for the PlayStation remains very high, even when consumers are paying more than the shelf price to snare a bundled console, or one new one from the secondary market. We continue to see high demand for the PlayStation 5 in all markets we analyze and we anticipate should supply conditions improve. Ahmed said that Sony will still be able to meet their unit sale targets despite the price increase given demand still outweighs supply. The price hike in the non-US territories he speculated was likely done to keep the hardware profitability stable and hit targets set for the fiscal year. So this actually is a big thing because Sony also did go on to note that the PlayStation 5 disk drive is basically not selling at a profit. Its diskless digital only unit is still being sold at a loss. It's likely that Sony increased the price of the console to keep hardware profitability stable and also try to hit targets for the fiscal year and make shareholders happy. Also, Pachter concurred, stating they had planned to be profitable by now for the PlayStation 5, so they were on track, but I'm assuming that they were actually making less profit margins than they planned for, so decided to shift the burden to the consumers, which is also kind of just a bad call. So basically that's them being like, hey, we were making good money, but then it was kind of like inflation, shipping costs, and all that kind of ate into our profits. So let's just go and upcharge these kind of mid-tier places. Because we also did see a news article as well that the PlayStation 5 game sales in America were at like a 10 game per game console. While like say places in Japan were at around a 5. So in theory, even if they are still losing money on the PlayStation 5 in America, the game sales like the Ratchet & Clanks, Horizons, God of War, all those, Spider-Man, are kind of making up for it price-wise, which also makes sense of why they're pushing into it. So, very intriguing. And also getting back to the satisfying white-hot demand, which either keeps a price hike in the US at bay, so basically it's like if enough people keep on buying stuff and buying games and buying controllers and PS Plus editions, then they won't have to worry about price increases, but that also is a big issue too as well, because if there's still issues with supply chains and also just maybe if game sales go down, which they have been going down, or people playing games go down, or PS Plus goes down, they might actually make that commitment and raise the prices once again, which is scary, but like if we've seen how they've done it throughout the rest of the world, they're not opposed to doing it. So Sony and Nintendo designed their consoles to use proprietary chips for mundane functions like Bluetooth, Patcher said. Supply chain hit them harder because they couldn't substitute many of these chips too as well. The fact of the price increase affects every market, but the United States seems to acknowledge Sony sees a very competitive market here, where Microsoft hasn't battled the same kind of supply issues, but of course, hasn't sold as many units either. Bleeding US customers for another $50, then PS5 likely wouldn't affect the demand that much, Peach said. But it would send another message to households that the value of price your consoles, with its own subscription to manage, and Xbox Series X with Game Pass as an option, it would be one more reason to sign up for Game Pass instead of buying a PS5. And that's why I keep on saying too, is that it's a very scary thing. So it does seem like the PlayStation 5 pricing increase is not out of the question. Analysts are assuming it could be a possibility. We're gonna have to keep on watching this more closely to see how it turns on out. But make sure you guys go check out the Twitch stream where we'll be doing some birthday stuff, having some drinks, having some time. Follow up the Twitter. We have the Target links, Amazon links, and make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. Give me your thoughts and comments down below.